up, everybody? Welcome back to Switch Talk, the perfectly pocket-sized podcast where we talk about the hottest games coming to the hybrid console that has stolen our hearts and minds, the Nintendo Switch. I just want to start the show today with a sincere message of gratitude. If you listen to the show on iTunes or if you hit that play button on YouTube, thank you very much. When you're podcasting, you do things like this. You do it, and you're trying to do it because it's fun. But having some type of feedback, knowing that someone's participating, that you're growing a community, slowly, I really appreciate it. I want to thank my guest, Phil Myth, for being here. He's taking the time out of his busy schedule. I know he's got a lot to do. He's basically the Brad Pitt of the United Kingdom, so he's a very busy man. And I want to thank Gary Gray as well for everything that they're doing with the Nintendo Village. Again, if you're consuming Switch Talk or any of the content over there, thank you. If you're the first person to listen to this podcast, go to YouTube and look up Switch Talk and comment on the video and say, I won. Because you won $5 Nintendo eShop credit. If you're living in the UK, we're going to get it to you. We can figure out how to get you the code. And I want to say 5, and just to keep the bar low. And I hope to keep bringing that up and up as we gain support. But I want to thank the listeners and make sure that you're getting something for being excited with what we're excited about. So thank you guys. So make sure you go to YouTube, say I won, because you just won something if you're first. So early bird, worm, you know what. All right. I'm sad to say that, again, we have our usual co-hosts are very busy with movie deals and contracts and things with other podcasts. But we do have Phil Min. Now, Phil actually reviewed Mario Tennis Aces, the game we're going to talk about today for the Nintendo Village. So go ahead and go to the website, nintendovillage.com, and check it out. I thought that he'd be perfect to fill in for Clay and David while they're gone. Phil, again, thank you for being here. I'd like to discuss this game with you. I was super excited about it. Long story short, I have some strong feelings, and I'm going to need you to talk me down off my Nintendo fanboy rage ledge, okay? So I want you to open the show and just tell me a little bit about your experience with the game. Just set the stage. We already talked about, am I the bad cop? Are you the good cop? Tell me about the game, Phil. Take it away. The floor is yours. Let them hear your voice.
So I went into Mario Tennis Aces off the back of the online tournament demo they ran, which I was actually really impressed with. When they initially announced the game, I was a little bit skeptical about all the slow motion racket breaking mechanics and stuff ruining the core tennis, but I actually think they've been implemented pretty well, and I really enjoyed the demo, so I was excited to go into the game. Going into it, again, that core tennis is really solid, I find, and the zone mechanics, again, I think work well. I quite like them. Simple rules are in there for people that want it. The adventure mode was fun while it lasted. Unfortunately, I wrapped it up, including doing every mission and unlocking every racket in 4 or 5 hours or so, something like that. And the RPG mechanics, such that they are, you earn XP when you finish a level and your stats get boosted, but you don't get to choose which stats you get boosted, which I thought kind of makes the whole thing meaningless and pointless. You can't replay the adventure mode with a different character, or obviously you can't replay it and tweak your stats to try and beat it with a different type of Mario. He's just a powerful all-rounder. And there's certain mini games in there as well, like you have to hit 200 rallies back and forth. There's no high score mechanism. Once you hit 200, boom, that's it. It finishes. So there's no reason to go back and try and beat your high scores either. So it's good. It's okay. It's maybe good's but a little bit too strong. It's okay. Like I say, the core tennis is really, really good, but it's lacking that Nintendo polish on the top, and it just seems to be rushed out the door a little bit. The features in there, you can't play a full game of tennis. You can't do 6 games, 5 sets at all. I can understand to a certain extent why you'd have truncated matches online. You're worried about drop connections and things like that, but to not have that option available offline, I think is a really, really big oversight. Yeah. I gave the game a 2 out of 5. Maybe slightly harsh, perhaps it was between a 2 and a 3 for me, but I didn't feel comfortable giving it a good 3-star rating, so I went with the 2 in the end. So it's okay. If you're a diehard fan, you'll get some enjoyment out of it, but it's missing a lot.
I can't agree with you more. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the demo because I think that it's good in this day and age because you really just want to give people a taste to see if, hey, I've earned your money. I'm going to give you a product. Here's a little taste. And Nintendo was smart to do that. I think that surprising you with a decent, I mean, there were some problems with the online, but to kind of even focus on the multiplayer aspect, because they could have locked it behind just, here's the first couple levels of adventure mode. I thought it was pretty bold. They showed off the new stuff, the zone shots, slowing down time, and, special moves, the racket breaking, which that's one of the main things I'm not a fan of. But it's good to have a taste, full stop. I think they should continue doing things like that in the future.
Absolutely, and it worked really well for ARMS and Splatoon previously. Like I bought both of those games off the back of the Test Punch, and it was off the back of this demo that I bought Tennis Aces. So it does work in terms of converting people into sales.
It's interesting when you were speaking about the game, it kind of you come off with this laundry list of critiques and things that are missing, just glaring omissions and lack of options with the cord. You can't play the adventure mode with more than one character. Everything that you said, and I've come away with a similar list, and it pains me to do that. I almost, again, feel like I'm being harsh with the game. I think when you're talking about a game, when you're trying to give your impressions, you have to be real about what your bias is. I came in with, I wanted it to be good. That's period. I had expectations. I'm building off this nostalgia from having a great time with the series since 64, being very excited about it. I think other Nintendo first-party titles have recently set a high bar. The reason why it's so disappointing is because of something like Mario Rabbids, where the environments in the adventure mode in that game were like crazy. There was something to look at. The color palette was beautiful, things happening in the background, and everything from the overworld map to the actual courts that you play on and unlock are super bland. So again, I think that if you look at it for what the game is, then you got to give it, it's a decent game. But then when you look at it with your expectations, that really brings it down, at least for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like it was really uncharacteristic to the sort of lack of polish on the presentation side. Things like when you unlock a new racket, you just get text up that says you've unlocked a racket. There's no little cool animation.
Me crazy.
Yeah, and there's there's not even like a wahoo for Mario or anything like that. It's just like it's something that I don't know. Maybe we take it for granted in Nintendo games that these little touches are there, but it just seemed really weird. And even like basic things like. So I know minor spoilers, I guess, but in the adventure mode, there's 5 power stones that you have to recover, and you recover each one when you beat a boss. And you beat the boss, and there's an animation of the chest opening, but you don't actually see a power stone in the entire game. It was just weird. It was just weird to see.
It feels like the pieces of the game got put together at different points, and there's even cutscene animations where you have Mario and Toad adventuring out with speaking out, little text is explaining the story to you. And sometimes on the other side of the screen, there will be your opponent. So it'll be, Boo. And sometimes it'll be like the boss, but like kind of speaking, but you don't see them. Almost as if the actual boss was finalized later. Like they came out with the structure, figured out what were you going to do. And like, okay, bosses came in later. We don't have an animation for them. Just run with it. You're collecting power stones. What do they look like? Literally not showing you a visualization of what you're working toward. Again, you already brought up the rackets. There are certain things that are just completely omitted. The one thing I wanted to ask you about as well, because I think this is something that you pointed out in your review that we had a point of contention, was the roster for me. You liked it. I thought it was severely weak. Now, at the time of this recording, we just got news of free DLC characters. So you can unlock a few, 3, which rounds the roster out to I think about 12. And then again, we're going to be getting new free DLC characters. Again, don't fact check me on the exact amount of characters, but we're getting more. So the game isn't complete. DLC, Nintendo's been doing more and more with that from, in this with this console, from everything from Odyssey to Breath of the Wild to Splatoon. They're doing more DLC, and I think generally right. So the game's not finished. What do you think about the roster? I think too small even as it is with the 3 unlockables. What would you think about the characters?
I was okay with it. I think the the thing I really like about the roster is that you have got like Spike and Chain Chomp and these sort of like random left field entries that, you know, sometimes rosters on Mario games can get a little bit stale. It's the same guys coming up again. Obviously, you're Mario and Luigi, and then you've got Koopa, and you know the left field inclusion will be Dry Bones, which is essentially just Koopa again. So have these other characters show up as playable for the first time. Are really cool. I like that they're in there, and I thought the different classes as well. So like, you know, you've got the wicked curve on like Boo's and like Rosalina's curve shots. You've got like powerful but like lumbering Bowser's and stuff like that. And I thought by and large they were relatively well balanced. There was a few that a little bit like Chain Chomp can hit a ball from anywhere on the court seemingly. Same with Bowser Jr. So maybe the balance needs a little bit of tweaking, but generally speaking, I thought it was okay. Yeah, more characters are always great. If you want to throw more characters, yeah, bring them on. I'm glad that the ones that they are adding are free DLC. It's a good way to like keep people going back to the game, which, you know, Nintendo really knocking it out of the park in terms of free update stuff. You know, they did the same with ARMS and Splatoon and things like that. So yeah, by and large, I quite like them. I haven't played as everyone yet, but I've enjoyed the variety in the ones that I have played as. There's definite distinctions between each one.
I think that with me, again, I love the left field characters as well. I think that Nintendo in general in Mario games, you know, just they should scream fun at me whenever you get a chance. And I came up with a little short list of a couple of characters that I thought kind of would be no-brainers. And maybe this is an ignorant statement to say, okay, any Nintendo characters, anything they own, you know, anyone from their franchises or IP, it should be a no-brainer to get them in there. But for all I know, there are significant costs, and, you know, the way that this game was, you know, worked out, licensed, what have you, it would be harder. But a couple things that I had some ideas with. In a post Smash world, in a post Mario Kart 8 world, I feel like I love the huge rosters. You know, just give me more. If they could you imagine if you had Link out there or Samus? But also, I kind of got even more left field. If there was like a Rabbid character out there, like just say that it was only Rabbid Peach out there, tell me that would not be automatically like a fan favorite type character to have out there. It would be impressive, right?
Yeah, and that'd be really cool. And who knows, you know, they might throw something like that in, you know, post-launch DLC.
The penguin from N64 made a appearance. Again,
that would be really cool.
Minor spoiler. But, you know, the little penguin they used to, like, you know, the little baby you assassinated, but also, you know, the mom or whatever. But the penguin model shows up, and I was like, great, we got some fan service in this game. Maybe a Breath of the Wild style, like, court, or, you know, something like that, or even a Splatoon style court setting or an Inkling. Things like that, like any character, or it just seemed like the variety was so shoehorned and boxed in compared to some of these other games. So I just came away thinking, man, it's kind of a missed opportunity. Again, my internal bar for Mario games is high, but if you had like the ice climbers in there and somehow had them even doing like with the duel, like they're following each other around, they both have rackets somehow, just go all at it and just give me something that's gonna wow me. I was never wowed while playing the campaign, and you know, on the multiplayer side, it's decent. With the courts, and like, were you surprised with the amount of courts, the lack of what you received there? Again, we talked about they don't let you select your courts. You only can opt out of which ones you don't want to see when you even set up your own match and play. What do you think about the courts? Were you impressed by anything there that you saw?
The ones that are included, I really like.
They're a bit wacky, a little.
Yeah, I like some of the wacky stuff. And to be honest, I would have liked to have seen some more like wacky stuff like that in there. Like the ones with the piranha plants, and they swallow the balls and spit them out in different ways. The mirror one's really fun to play. I like that kind of stuff. I'd love to see more of it. It just seemed like there wasn't a huge amount of courts. I think there's maybe a dozen. And yeah, like you say, it's really weird that you can't like just pick which court you want to play on. You just go through and deselect the ones you don't. It's just again, it's that weird, uncharacteristic lack of polish, and then it just seems like it hasn't been thought through fully. But no, I like the courts that are there. I actually disagree with you slightly. I think they are fun to look at. I think aesthetically they are quite pleasing. I like all the different settings. They differentiate themselves well. like playing on the ship. It would have been interesting, like on the ship one, if like the motion of the ocean had affected the court in some way. That would have been cool.
That's a little tweak. It's right there. I don't know if somebody probably thought of it, and it ends up getting cut.
Maybe, maybe it made it a little bit too chaotic, which is fair enough. But I would like to see. Yeah, me too. Just make it an option. But no, I would like to see some more courts in there. I think the one thing I will say about on the presentation that I did really like is in the tournaments when you get the two toads introducing the matches and commentating on and stuff. That was a really nice touch, and it works really cool. Like, it really adds to the sense of occasion, it adds to the fun of it all, and it's I think the reason why the rest of the game was disappointed in that regard is because it didn't match up to that level. Like, I expected that level of quality throughout the game, and it sort of didn't crop up. But
what is it? What's the name? Is it Toadette? Is the pink one, and then we got Toad, of course. Who's the blue Toad? Do we have a name for blue Toad? Do you know?
No, I think they're all Toad, aren't they?
Yeah.
Toads are weird because like Captain Toad isn't Toad. He's a different Toad.
Are you lying to me right now?
No, so like Toad, yeah.
Mind
he's a different
blown.
Toad, apparently.
I had no idea, really.
Yeah, I believe so.
That's kind of disappointing,
that,
actually. Yeah. We'll figure it out. The Toad mythos continues. It keeps unraveling.
That Toad lore is deep, man. That Toad lore is deep.
Toad's like an onion of a mushroom. There's many layers. Again, I think you're right. There's had to have been a lot of more effort placed in certain areas of the game. And again, I think development across came together like late, different pieces by different people most likely. But again, I really liked it as well. Like I thought it was a bold move to emphasize so strongly the tournament structure, because when you're going to online, it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna quick match make online. It's really, okay, we're placing you into the bracket so you can go and compete, 4 wins to get to a championship under your belt. I would also have liked something a little bit different. Just more modes. When I initially tried to play online, not in the demo, but actual post-launch, David, our co-host can attest to this. We had severe problems staying connected, creating rooms, just getting into a match took us quite a long time. So online play during my experience has not been too good. Again, I try to use a wired connection when I play, and it makes me worried for what's going to be happening later on when Nintendo starts charging for online and this type of access. But there are some bugs, and that's not the end of the world for me necessarily, but I can see how it would be. You're not really going to get into build a competitive scene if your online infrastructure isn't as good as it can be. I'm sure local play is going to be seamless, but you'd want Nintendo to be there. Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't even have to think about it? What was your online experience? I know you're playing completely different part of the world. You select different server, I think, as well. You select between United States and a couple other areas.
Yeah, by and large, it's been okay. There's a few matches that they drop out before it starts, but I like that it does that. It has like a little test thing before it actually puts you into the match to make sure that the connection's okay. Sure, there's a little bit of lag here and there, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was in the demo, which I really struggled with at times. But by and large, my biggest gripe with it is that there's just so few options to play online. Like, you can do the tournaments, which is best of 3 games. That's it. Like 1 set, best of 3 games, or you can do a tiebreaker, and that's it. You can't just have like a one-off game of tennis with someone.
Very surprising.
It's
again,
insane to me.
They lean one way, which is fine. Not necessarily the end of the world. I just don't understand what kind of financial decision is made where it's like, we got to cut this. I mean, that's the only reason that I could see is I understand if it's a money time thing, but I hold anything with the Nintendo title, with a mainline Mario type sport title to a higher standard. Maybe I shouldn't. I mean, but that's just me. Why not just add it? So yeah, long story short, it's a good game overall. Like, we all know that there's a tennis game there. And again, Phil, you said that you enjoyed it tennis-wise, right? Mechanically.
Absolutely, it's absolutely. Like, it feels really, really good to pull off all the different shots. Like I say, the core tennis underneath, I think, is as solid as it's ever been in the franchise. Personally, I think it works really, really well. It's just a shame that there's not a lot built on top of that. It almost feels like the game was rushed out slightly in order to get out a semi-big summer release for Nintendo on the Switch. It feels like they had to have something there, and it just feels a little bit undercooked.
I think that the system as a whole, the Switch, is going to be experienced by people way differently than I ever will, because I'm just not at that age where I have a bunch of friends that I see regularly in real life, not working, not like at school or what have you, where we're going to bust out the two Joy-Cons and be playing. Like, I don't have my siblings around me like that. Again, just the age group is different. The games like this, though, with that solid, frantic, playing doubles with people in the same room, like, that's gonna be amazing. I sadly am not just gonna experience that as much. I'm always gonna have that online barrier, just the way that my life is. So I think you have to take that into account if you're looking at the game. What can I not take advantage of? Right now, I need all more Nintendo games to have online multiplayer, because I want to play with others, but I can't do it, couch co-op. I'm expecting that same thing. Like, have you gotten the chance to play locally with many people, or did you just mainly do the online and single player?
It's mainly just been the online single player, but I've done a little bit of co-op. So where I work, like my day job, we have sort of Mario Kart Friday. So on Friday lunchtime, we'll play Mario Kart. Yeah, it's great. So we play that in the office. Like, a couple of guys bringing switches in, and we were looking forward to like playing Mario Tennis, and like having Mario Tennis Fridays. We'll be bringing Smash in when that comes out too, obviously. But nobody else has bought Tennis Aces. It's only me that's bought it, because I got it and then gave my feedback to everyone. Nobody's sort of dipped in. It's a full price game, and I don't think that there's $60, £50 worth of content in there for it. Maybe if they could patch in having full matches, then I'll break the Switch out more and hand off Joy-Con, and we can play a full match of tennis. But it just seems pointless to do it when you're only playing for a 5-minute match. And it's like, part of the beauty of tennis, and Mario Tennis as well in the past, is that you have longer matches and you start to learn your opponent's moves and what their weaknesses are, and you start to sort of manipulate them around the court, and you start reacting to that and anticipating what they're going to do next. And you can't do that in a 2-minute match.
Wow.
So it kind of feels you don't really get the full experience from it, because it's so bite-sized.
That's really deep. I mean, I totally agree and acknowledge that. Just didn't think about it, the learning your opponent. A lot of people have compared adding that new mechanics to Aces as bringing it up to like a fighter level game, where you're thinking about more of your meter management and how you're going to counter and your placement on the court and the ball. Like, what ace do they have up their sleeves that you're going to counter with? Now, I think that that's too much for me. It's just not my preference. I'm not a huge fighting game fan, so I think there's something to that about why mechanically I didn't like, especially the racket breaking. I found that when you have to time a block, that it's much too strict on timing. Maybe people will learn that and master it. I know that after playing a lot of the adventure mode, I can feel myself getting better, but I just feel like there was like no leeway there. I was always too early and just could not get it down even after hours of play. That's gonna hurt it for me. I mean, what was your experience with that?
Yeah, I was the same with you on the demo. I could not get the blocking timing down at all, but playing through the adventure mode and playing some more matches online, I feel like getting better at it. I can't do it without using zone speed. Have to use zone speed to get that timing right.
Yes,
but
helps.
even in the demo using zone speed, I was still always too early. But I'm more or less there now. It's rare that I lose a match to racket breaking. It's an interesting mechanic. It's not my favourite one. Like the zone speed, zone shots, and super shot stuff, I actually like all that. It's not just a passive, they're there, but I enjoy them. The racket breaking is, I don't hate it, I don't love it. It's like, it's there. You can get to a point where, and the game will get to a point where people are good enough to block every time, so it kind of becomes much of a muchness. So it's not a game breaking thing for me, or a racket breaking thing, as it were. But it's I can unbelievable, Jeff. I can live with it. I can live with that. I'm not overly fussed either way.
I have a question for you. Maybe you know from your playtime more than me. The star that appears on your end of the court that gives you the opportunity to use some of your meter. When does that star appear? Is that triggered by any action, either by you or by the opponent? Maybe I was thinking at some point maybe it's like the height of the ball if it's up in the air for so long. I couldn't figure out what triggers the opportunity. Do you know when the star appears?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Like I read something that said it was when your return shot doesn't match the power level of the previous shot.
Oh.
So, but in my playtime, I couldn't quite replicate that. It may be that I just wasn't reaching the power level, because I felt like I was at least matching it, if not exceeding it, and yet the star was still appearing. So I wasn't entirely sure. It seems to be kind of arbitrary. There must be some rule to it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That there has to be something, and that kind of speaks to it. I mean, you figure that it is something nuanced or something, hidden slightly like that, because I don't remember it being explained to me in the beginning, and I was trying to learn that because I figured that would be key. Let me try to avoid the star opportunity happening for the opponent. Let me try to increase that for myself. But again, not something that I picked up on. I'm sure if I did some research, someone's out there like figuring it out. Competitive play, if that ever does become a thing, I'm sure they'll take full advantage of that and the KO racket breaking that's going to knock somebody out. It's interesting, but like you said, unless you really score a significant home run with a game, it's hard to get that following, because you want more copies around so that word of mouth spreads. So that person that is going to have the online, going to be able to have the game to play online with you. And it just does. I can't recommend it. Giving my score to wrap things up, I want to give it a solid 3 out of 5, right around the average. I go back and forth with my own high expectations and giving it the credit that the game obviously, deserves for being sound mechanically. But again, there's just too much missing, too many flaws. It seems kind of half-baked, and I totally agree basically with what you were saying. I'm not surprised at a 2 out of 5. Again, I want to be fair, so I go back and forth. Same thing as you. So I want to thank you so much for your time, Phil. Thank you for reviewing the game. If you haven't checked it out, we got video reviews on Nintendo Village, thenintendovillage.com. And again, if you are the first person listening to the podcast, search Switch Talk on YouTube and just leave a comment saying I won. And, I'm going to go to the first comment that said that first and award you $5 Nintendo eShop credit. We're going to go ahead and work that out with you. So again, we'll message back and forth. So congratulations, lucky winner. Thank you for tuning in. Please tell others about the website as well as Switch Talk, and hit subscribe all around. Phil, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me, man. I really appreciate you bringing me on.